we all have a story, a journey, and something that makes us uniquely us. It sculpts who we are and how we interact with the world. It puts us in a league of our own. I'm going to tell you a story today, and it's a story about a regular person and her leadership journey. My hope in telling you this story in this format is that you all realize how amazing your personal stories are, and that you should stop covering if you're doing that at work. We talk about work-life balance a lot, but I'm not sure that everybody really brings their true self to work. I would like you to take this story and realize who you are as a leader, and that is a leader worth following. Imagine a couple, maturing before your very eyes. High school sweethearts, huskers, married, living a fairy tale. World on a string in a Microsoft project-worthy plan. What do couples do when they get married? They have kids, of course, and they get pregnant immediately. It's a beautiful thing. Parents, do you remember back when you first found out you were pregnant? You know, that enjoyment, that like fulfillment, and you think, wow, this is overwhelming, I'm gonna start picking names, etc. It's a wave of emotions. But at 9 weeks, they found out that the pregnancy was non-viable. Boom. In one very clinical term, all of those hopes and dreams and emotions are wiped away. Our best laid plans in work and in life will have obstacles. As leaders, we all have to adapt to those things rather, no matter what those circumstances are. You can't separate them, whether you think you're trying or not. Most of the leaders, the good leaders, understand those circumstances, own them, and forge on. Especially those plans that we're particularly attached to. Sometimes that's when it's hardest to forge on. So back to our story for a second. The doctors tell the young couple, it's fine, this happens. Keep going, keep trying if you want to. So, couple gets back out there. But when we're left without closure, again, in work or in life, we don't have clear and concise answers. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it makes it hard to forge ahead. And if you're one of those folks that's wired that you have to kind of know the answer, it's hard to put that emotional intelligence piece aside, right? It's hard to balance those things. How do you treat your colleagues when you're in those circumstances at work, when you're left without that closure? Back to the story for a second. Couple does what all new couples do, and they try again. And on August 30th, 2001, Jack Donavon Ricketts was born with a full head of hair. The kid's adorable. And it worked. There was a healthy child. And that's wonderful. In life and in work, when you have a good result, what do? You try again. Rinse, repeat. And when you don't think you have to make adjustments, you don't. You just keep forging ahead. No alterations, and expect the same result next time, right? But back to our story for a second. The couple thinks, wow, beautiful baby boy, world on a string, right? What do you do when you get pregnant the first time? Yay, child, you have more children, or try. This time, the couple made it all the way to 16 weeks, and things start to go very wrong. And they have a miscarriage, a very mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually challenging miscarriage, and it was very heartbreaking. In work and in life, you can't plan for these contingencies. Our response in these moments, it's the true test of our grit. What are you going to do next? You're going to keep forging ahead again? You're going to put those things aside? We try to dismiss the emotional element of what happens at home when we walk into the workplace and vice versa. But I would challenge you to really think about that every day. Because when you own it, you can actually become a better leader. Facts and circumstances can always be, are, and should be a great way to make decisions. But it is okay to put that passion into what you do every day. And again, to own it. There's those people that we work with that want to fill the room with air. Sometimes that can be difficult as well. So back to the story for a second. The couple, decides to keep trying. Getting pregnant was never the problem for these young folks, and they get pregnant again. And this time, through everything, they get to the 20-week mark, and they go in for an ultrasound. You guys know those, hopefully, not hopefully, but you all have had those experiences where you just know something is wrong. And whether it's a doctor or spiritual leader or something like that, the couple knew something was very wrong. And once again, shortly thereafter that appointment, the child was lost. Those are the crucible moments, and you can choose how to be. You can choose to stand up, continue to lead, continue to be there for your children, or move on. The doctor suggested having genetic testing done, probably fine, but just get things checked out. And after some simple blood tests, the response was that the couple were carriers of something called reciprocal translocation. What in the hell is that? It is when, and this is Darwinism, the P arm of number 4 and the Q arm of number 10, they break off at conception and try to switch. And there's one of 3 outcomes that can happen. One is no switching actually takes place and it's a healthy child. The second is that a common amount of instructions switch and you have a healthy child but they're a carrier. Or the third circumstance is a devastating result, which is a different amount of instructions take place. We are presented with a lot of information in our jobs. I work in financial services. There is more lingo and acronyms than I can count. When are you really listening? Challenge yourself to really listen. Back to the story for a second. What would you think at this point? The couple has a beautiful baby boy, world on a string. Call it good? Stop trying? Or move on? Show up. Show that grit. Decide and look for a better outcome this time. Risk teams call it materiality in your workplace. You have to decide whether or not your version of risk is tolerable, but do you know your own personal version of risk? And what does that mean to you, and how does it translate into your work? This couple was prepared to do that, and they tried again. And when they learned they were pregnant, all the other tests ensued, and in what psychologists call a flashbulb moment, and with a call that will never be forgotten, she's okay. Anabel Grace was born May 28th, 2004. The planner had to learn to roll with it. You have to learn the true meaning of thankfulness. It pales in comparison sometimes to the pain and delight of having children, but we got to keep this stuff in check with what goes on at work. And sometimes some of those things just aren't, that important. Perspective can be a very beautiful thing. Back to the story for a second. The happy couple and their adorable little family, now they get transferred back. And, a couple bumps in the road, but they're back in Omaha, things are good, start a new chapter of their lives. And what wasn't realized and wasn't planned for, but was probably in God's plan somewhere, was little whoops. So on April 20th, 2006, little whoops was born. So I would not be where I am today if it hadn't been for these events. And for these little people, driving us crazy. The chief talked about his teenage daughter, but these events made me, my leadership, my husband, my marriage, my resolve, my faith stronger. These are the moments in your life that you have to understand how it translates to what you do in your leadership journey. And I think it's very important because this stuff is scary, but it's so worth it. Don't be afraid. Know where that risk is for you and forge ahead. Honoring these types of events in your life, I believe, makes you a better leader. It puts you in the moment. A lot of us try to cover these things up. It's a common term in diversity and inclusion is to cover. I think that's very sad. I think you should bring it. Because that's what diversity and inclusion means in the workplace. You are in a league of one, a league of your own. It's a brilliant culmination of all your experiences, heartbreaks, whatever those might be, spiritual journeys. Don't try to push it out of your work. I think you should bring it in because I think you'll be a happier, healthier, better leader in the end for it. Thank you.